Hello everybody and welcome back to Red Eagle Politics. Make sure you like this video down below and subscribe to the channel if you are new. So in today's video, we're going to be talking about the state of Florida. And it's a very important pivotal state because it's 30 electoral votes now. It didn't used to be that big. And it's also becoming a more Republican state over time, a Republican stronghold. So much so to the point where both of the top presidential contenders for the Republican side in 2024 are calling Florida their home state. And we know that. And there's also some debate over why is Florida becoming a red state? Trump is saying that it was already headed down that path before DeSantis. Meanwhile, DeSantis is taking credit for it in almost its entirety. And the answer is somewhere in the middle, and we're going to be talking about that in today's video. But also, furthermore, you have a lot of people moving to Florida from a lot of states in the Midwest. And is that potentially making Florida redder, while also holding back Republicans in some of those states that Donald Trump flipped Republican in 2016 that hadn't previously gone Republican since the 1980s? We're going to be talking about all this and more in today's video. But first, I have to tell you guys about our very good friends over at Noble Gold. The second and third largest bank failures in history happened last month. The government is taking steps to guarantee all deposits, which means more money printing. Thousands have approached Noble Gold Investments to secure their wealth with gold. It's the most stable asset outside of government control, so hurry and go to noblegoldinvestments.com to secure your wealth. Bag a free 5-ounce America the Beautiful coin if you qualify. That is noblegoldinvestments.com. Once again, noblegoldinvestments.com. So the midterms were a very, very good year for Republicans in the state of Florida, and a not so good year for Republicans outside of the state of Florida. And yeah, there's some other exceptions. They did decently well in New York, in Texas, in California, in Iowa, and in some other pretty solidly Republican states. But when it came to a swing state that actually delivered, or even a former swing state that delivered for Republicans in the midterms, arguably Florida would be the best answer, where you saw the biggest overperformance, even compared to expectations of an overperformance. So why exactly is that the case? Well, the state party has become increasingly competent. They have people in there that are using the election system to their advantage. They go out there, they make sure they can get as many early and mail-in votes from the Republican side as possible. I think they even outdid the Democrats in mail-in voting in many places, which you really didn't see anywhere else. So they have a competent operation, and the Democrats don't. They have complete morons and lunatics that are running their party that don't know what the hell that they are doing. And Marco Rubio, he won by 16. Ron DeSantis went out there and he won by 19 and change. Some people are saying that that kind of gives him a mandate ahead of 2024 because he was able to win big in Florida, even though he is an incumbent governor, even though he did outspend Charlie Crist like by a ridiculous amount of money. He has almost $200 million in that war chest. He spent half of it on this race that he was going to win anyways, probably by more than 10 points. So that definitely plays a role. But the state party definitely knows what they are doing in the state of Florida. The Democrats don't, and that is one of the reasons why Republicans have been doing so well there, and they've built up that apparatus, they've built up that operation, and this is true. And you can look at the trends and some of the swings, because obviously 2016, we can go to the 2016 election, we could pull this up back in the day, where Donald Trump went out there and he defeated Hillary Clinton in Florida. A lot of polls and pundits showed this race as 50-50. This was a must-win for Trump at the time, even though technically looking back, he could have actually won the election without the state of Florida because he flipped Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania, which were three states that pretty much nobody at the time thought Donald Trump would have been able to go out there and win, and people were saying Trump is going to bomb with the Hispanic vote. That really didn't happen. He actually outperformed Mitt Romney in 2016, and then in 2020, he did very well across the board compared to past Republicans, but looking at it, he was able to win. He ran it up in the panhandle in a lot of those counties there. He didn't do so well in the Miami-Dade area, where I think he did worse than Mitt Romney did, but he was still able to accelerate some of the trends in the panhandle, the rural part of the state, the exurbs, whatever, to the point where he was able to take the state. And then in 2018, you saw Ron DeSantis get elected governor against all odds, which this was another consequential election, not just for 2024 purposes, but because in a blue wave national environment, you had a Republican take the governor's office there, and you had Andrew Gillum, who was very far left, a downright meth head, crackhead who engages in bisexual orgies in hotel rooms as of 2020. He would have been their governor if it weren't for about 33,000 votes separating DeSantis from Andrew Gillum. And definitely you could thank Donald Trump for that as well. Donald Trump endorsed Ron DeSantis in the primary. He sent down a lot of his people to help his campaign down the stretch, get over the hump, get over the finish line there, and it worked wonders. And DeSantis did so well in this election because he was able to do a little bit better in Miami-Dade County. He did much better in counties like Palm Beach, Osceola, which Trump accelerated those trends in 2020, and Donald Trump maintaining a solid relationship with the Venezuelan voters, the Cuban voters, whatever. Yeah, you could say that's one of the rare exceptions for the whole socialism tagline working, although using it at this point really isn't going to help move the needle, even if you can get more votes out there in Florida. But you look at Miami-Dade County, he cut that margin from like 30 points to 7. He did better across the board in pretty much every county, even in some of the suburban counties like Hillsborough, which a lot of people thought Biden would probably win by over 10. He was able to maintain his margin that he got there back in the 2016 election pretty much, where he lost it by 6 and change, and then in 2020, he also was able to lose it by 6 and change. He did better in some of the exurbs and suburbs surrounding Orlando. And yeah, he did lose a little bit here and there, like in the Jacksonville area, whatever, besides the point. But you see this trend continuing, and Florida has become more and more of a red state. So the real question is, what else is going on here? Why is Florida becoming a red state? Well, a lot of the reason has to do not just with the state party, because we've already covered that. We covered trends among some ethnic minority groups there, but that's not enough to explain the full trend, obviously. And a large part of it is the fact that you have a lot of people moving to the state of Florida. As it's growing, it's becoming more and more Republican. And you could say that DeSantis' governorship has helped a little bit here and there because it has, attracted a lot of conservatives, culturally speaking, in the COVID era. But it's a little bit deeper than that. It's also because you have a push and pull. Florida's doing pretty well. You have very good weather in the state of Florida, and people are moving there. I wouldn't say that people are moving to Arizona in droves because Doug Ducey was such a great governor, or that people are moving to Texas in droves because of the fact that Greg Abbott is such a great governor. I think it's a little bit deeper than that. I think DeSantis arguably has kind of changed the political identity to a certain extent as governor of Florida because he's been more effective than somebody like Ducey or somebody like Abbott and presided over a swing state while still doing things. Although if he does run for president, one could say that that brand may be damaged if he really is going to take the bait and cave into a lot of these neocon donors' demands, because he's going to have to rely on out-of-state money if he is to run in 2024, especially against somebody like Donald Trump. And there have been several polls released over the past month that actually have him losing the Florida primary to Donald Trump, which would really make things interesting, because if he can't win Florida, which is a winner-take-all state that he's currently governor of, he's probably not going to win regardless. But this is a map here on the North American Moving Services website, which actually move a lot of people. So these are raw numbers that they have. 2021 right here. You look at where people are moving out of and where people are moving to. They're moving out of New Jersey, New York, Connecticut, Illinois, California. They're moving to North Carolina, Florida, Texas, Arizona, Colorado, and some in Idaho. And there's definitely other northwestern states that are not colored in that are getting a lot of people. But also you have Michigan and Pennsylvania on this list, which are two swing states that Donald Trump picked off in 2016. And then you see people looking at these Rust Belt elections and they're saying, maybe Republicans moving out of these places and moving to Florida is actually hurting them in these states. And I don't think that was the main reason for the Wisconsin Supreme Court election underperformance. I do think to an extent it is an issue, and it could be an issue if these trends keep continuing. Obviously, you do have Democrats moving out of these places. Detroit is getting smaller. You have a lot of black voters that are moving to Georgia. I don't know if they have Georgia even highlighted here, but you have a lot of growth in the Atlanta metro area. I wonder if it'll show it for any of these years. Apparently not, but still, it is a top destination, even if it's not top 7 or whatever. And you do have Democrats in California that are moving to Colorado, that are moving to Washington State, Oregon, Arizona. You get an eclectic mix of people moving there, but you do have a lot of Rust Belt people. You have a lot of Californians as well that are moving to Arizona. But furthermore, you have a lot of Republicans that are fleeing California as well, Texas to a certain extent. Outside of Austin, a lot of the transplants are voting more Republican than not. That part is actually true. One could say they could even save the state in the long run. Florida definitely has been saved from becoming a blue state or even a swing state because you have transplants from New York, from Pennsylvania, from Michigan, from the Chicago area that happen to be boomers. They happen to vote more Republican in many cases. But at the same time, is that really potentially going to be that good in the long run if you have these states that are kind of close and we're trending Republican, becoming more Democrat over time because Republican voters are moving? Yeah, it's possible. I think Republicans still will be competitive in these Rust Belt states because you do have a lot of Democrats leaving them as well. You have a lot of people that are leaving these states. And even in places like New York, you see the fact that Kathy Hochul barely got by in her gubernatorial bid over Lee Zeldin, despite a lot of people leaving the state of New York. So maybe you will start to see these states become more Republican as they lose population somehow. I don't know what the psychology would be behind that, but either way, it is an interesting thing to consider. I still think Wisconsin is winnable if Republicans play their cards right. Definitely, there's more people moving to Wisconsin than out of Wisconsin, which is not the case when it comes to Michigan, where 61% of the traffic is outbound. Pennsylvania, it's 59%. New York, it's 61%. Connecticut, it is 60%, and you see that. And you look at Florida's inbound traffic, and it's also really high at 59%. Texas is 54%. Etc. You're looking at it and you're seeing it's more of a problem with Michigan and Pennsylvania, but it is a problem nonetheless. And one could say that I'm hypocritical in saying it because I am from a Rust Belt state. Now I live in the Sun Belt, technically, even though one day I'd like to move back. It's kind of beside the point. What we do know is you have a lot of people, and this is another map here, a lot of people from the Midwest and the Northeast that are moving into Florida more so than not. You could look at the top migration levels here. Definitely the Panhandle. There's a lot of Alabamians that may be moving in, but where the population centers are downstate, it's mostly New York. Michigan is in a close second there in terms of these counties, in terms of the states that are moving into them the most, outside of Alabama being next to the Panhandle. But still, very interesting data to look at. Florida's becoming a red state for various reasons. I don't think that you could say it's all DeSantis. I think it would be disingenuous to say it's not DeSantis at all. We could look into what aspects of DeSantis is the push-pull factor, but it is also because you have a lot of these Democrat-run states like New York, like Michigan, Pennsylvania. A lot of people are moving. COVID is one of the reasons because of those restrictions there where a lot of people moved. We'll see if those trends do actually continue to persist in the future. Could they be hurting Republicans' chances in the Rust Belt? Maybe in the future if they continue, but as of right now, it's still mainly a mechanics issue. It's mainly a turnout problem. But either way, it is a good thing that Florida is a red state now because those are 30 electoral votes you don't have to worry about. You could spend more time focusing on Wisconsin, on Pennsylvania, on Nevada, Georgia, Arizona. You got to focus on those now if they're even going to be winnable in the future, but that's kind of a topic for another video. But anyways, guys, thanks for watching this video. Like this video down below, comment down below, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications so you never miss another video. Follow me on social media. The links are all in the description down below. As always, guys, thanks for watching. Red Eagle, out.